Welcome to ITLS Academy. So today's lecture is based on chronic degenerative diseases in adult, links to childhood feeding and genomic composition. So in this particular lecture, we will going to understand the chronic degenerative diseases that are in adults that are likely to be linked to childhood feeding and genetics. And this chronic degenerative diseases that are in adult and that are linked to childhood feeding, or you can say genetics. So they are through in complex interaction where early nutrition can cause the lasting effects on the metabolism and susceptibility to disease. And talking about the genomic factors, they create predispositions that is then modified by both the childhood experience as well as the adult lifestyle. So this is often due to the mechanism like epigenetic changes, and we all are aware that epigenetic changes, they alter the gene expression in response to environmental factors like diet and stress. So in this particular lecture, we will going to understand about the childhood feedings, the epigenetic modification, like the genomic composition, and we will take some examples of the chronic degenerative diseases. Okay, now talking about the introduction part. So the chronic degenerative diseases is also known as CDDs, such as diabetes or cardiovascular diseases, cancer, and the neurodegenerative disorders are leading cause of adult morbidity and mortality. So this is what chronic degenerative means. And talking about its definition, so it is known as CDDs, and it include certain types of diseases. And you can simple say that this chronic degenerative describes the disease that are long lasting and involves the gradual deterioration of tissues, or you can say organ, over a time, like such as the heart diseases or like diabetes. And these conditions some are non-infectious, okay, means they do not cause any further infection. So the conditions are non-infectious and it progress very slowly, okay, and are leading cause of disabilities, we know that worldwide. And often it requires, I think, a long term management to control the symptoms and maintain a quality of life. So their origins often trace back to an early life nutrition and the genomic predispositions, and childhood feeding practices shape metabolic programming while genomic composition influence the susceptibilities. Understanding these correlation is the key to prevent the personalized nutrition strategies. So one thing is to be clear that sometimes we are aware that in our homes also we always focus on the early nutrition that is given to the newborn babies. Why? Because it is set certain bar of nutrient and the early stages of our life, that is our childhood. At that particular, because all the organs of our body, whether it's brain, whether it's your physical appearance, and everything is just developing. That is the reason we focus more on nutrition in a early stages of the birth, like newborn babies, because at that, but the nutrition that provide at that stage are very useful. So it is recommended to focus on nutrition at a early stage. While it if you give a better nutrition, or you can say a good nutrient to a newborn baby or at a early stages of life, so it it increases your immunity, it increases gives a good metabolic program, give a good metabolic rate in your body, while it makes the body so strong that you can fight with any of the infectious that comes in way. So it is important to have the good nutrient at an early stages. Now the childhood feeding patterns. We all know this, the childhood feeding patterns, it changes with ages, and generally involves the frequent or small meals for newborn, gradually decreases in frequency and increasing in the volume as they get older. So the childhood feeding, it involves the pattern of feeding that a newborn baby takes, like for example from birth. Okay, from day 0 to 6 month, infant are fed on demands. Okay, and after, after 2 to 3 hours they need the feeding, but after 6 months they are introduced to some solid foods are introduced, and it becomes like 2 to 3 times in a day. Okay, then after the infant, it comes the toddler age, like 1 to 2 years, and they at that particular age, like toddler age, they eat 4 to 5 meals plus 1 to 2 snacks per day. Okay, and I think that is the best thing for a toddler, to have 4 to 5 meals plus 1 to 2 snacks per day, with increasing variety and texture in their foods. So this is what a childhood feeding patterns look like. And coming to the thing, that is the feeding is again divided into two categories. The first one is your breastfeeding and the second one is your formula feeding. Talking about the breastfeeding, so it has an optimal and nutrition, immune protection and epigenetic benefits, and I think this breastfeeding is one of the most important feeding that is given for a baby, because it has so much of nutrient and it can fight with so much of infections that comes in a way. Then comes to the formula. So formula has some risk of adulthood, altered the gut microbiota. It increases obesity or have some diabetes risk, that comes the later parts. Now the early introduction of foods, so the processed food, sugars and saturated fats, that they create some metabolic programming issues. Delayed introduction of fruits, they include the micronutrient deficiencies. So see, talking about the feeding patterns of children, so we know that every infant or child has a right to have a good nutrition, isn't it? According to the convention on rights of the child, so every infant has the right of to get a good nutrition. And it is estimated, like if you talk globally, in 2024 itself, 149 million children under 5 were estimated to have a too short for age. Okay, because of the lack of nutrition. And about 45 millions were estimated to be wasted, like very thin or have a very less height, and about 37 millions were overweight or obese. So it is very important to have a complete set of nutrition for a humans, sorry, for a child, because early initiation of breastfeeding within 1 hour of birth, excessive feeding sometimes lead to obesity. So it is recommended to have a refined think like for example, refined in the sense everything should be in a proper way, not too high, not too low. Okay, and yes, formula milk are also important, and it also gives good nutrition, but yes, excessive can lead to the obesity. Now the critical nutrients in childhood, like iron, vitamin D, calcium, omega 3 fatty acid. So these are certain critical and essential nutrients for a childhood, and deficiencies linked to impaired growth and long-term disease risk. Now talking about the feeding environment, so family dietary habits, cultural practice, socio-economic factors have an impact on feeding. Even the overnutrition versus the undernutrition shaping lifelong health strategies. Now comes the genomic composition and nutrigenomics. So what do you understand with the genomic composition and nutrigenomics? This is something to be understood. Now, so, the nutritional genomic era includes two parts. First is your nutrigenomics, that study the interaction between the dietary component and the genome, and they regulate the changes in proteins and other metabolism. While talking about the nutrigenomics, so nutrigenomics that identify the response to dietary components with regard to genetic differences. That is the thing. Now, what do you understand by genomic predisposition? So, genomic predisposition, it is the increased likelihood, or you can say of developing a disease or condition due to person's genetic makeup. And genetic predisposition, it means you have inherited specific genetic variation that make you more susceptible to a certain illness, isn't it? Through it does not guarantee you will get the disease. Even the environmental and your lifestyle factor often play a role in triggering the conditions. Okay, now talking about the genetic predisposition, like how it works. So genetic predispositions, it results from a genetic specific gene variation that are often passed down through families, isn't it? Because sometimes, like diabetes, it passes from the families. Okay, and it can also occur through spontaneous genetic changes. So these variations contribute to higher risk, but they are not a direct cause of disease itself. And talking about an examples that how it passed from the family. So having a family history of diseases like breast cancer or diabetes can indicate a genetic predispositions, while certain variation in the genes like BRCA1 and BRCA2 significantly increases the risk of the breast and ovarian cancer, isn't it? But talking about the other genes have a small impacts and lifestyle choices that also influence the outcomes. So this is what a genomic predisposition mean. Now comes the second thing, that is the epigenetic modification. So epigenetic modifications says the first one is your diet influence DNA methylation and histone acetylation, and early nutrition as switch on and off genes linked to chronic diseases. Okay, now talking about what do you exactly means of by the term epigenetic. So the term epigenetic, no, I think no, I was first used to refer a complex interaction between the genome and the environment that are involved in the development of differentiations in higher organism. Now talking about today's scenario, so this term is used to refer a heritable alteration that are not due to the changes in DNA sequence. Rather, the epigenetic modification is also known as tags such as DNA methylation or histone modification. They alter the DNA accessibility and the chromic not chromic, it's the chromatin structure, thereby regulating the pattern of gene expression. These are processes and these processes are very crucial to normal development and differentiation of distinct cell in the adult organisms. Now moving to further, like nutrigenomics. So we all are aware of nutrigenomics because from the lecture number 1 we are dealing with the nutrigenomics. So again, it is an revision part, like what is nutrigenomics. So again, nutrigenomics, it is a study of how nutrient interact with the with genes, or you can say how nutrient interact with how nutrient and food, they interact with the gene to affect the health. Nutrigenomics, it examines how dietary components influences the gene expressions and how your genetic variation affects your body's response to nutrients. And this is a science that is used to understand how diet and gene together can influence the disease risk and to create a personalized diet for optimal health. Now talking about how it works, so gene and nutrient interaction. So nutrigenomics looks at how specific nutrients like vitamins and fatty acids can switch a gene on and off. It also studied how the genetic variations such as single nucleotide polymorphism, that is SNPs, affects how your body metabolizes and responds to creates good food and nutrient. Even it also create the personalized nutrition, like by analyzing a person's DNA, health professionals can identify the individual nutritional needs and the potential sensitivities to certain foods, helping to tailor a diet for optimal health. Now talking about the disease prevention, so nutrigenomics can provide an insight into how genetic predisposition combined with the lifestyle factors like diet influence the risk of developing chronic diseases such as type 2 diabetes, cardiovascular disease and obesity. So in this manner, nutrigenomics is the good study of how nutrients and interact with the gene. And examples we have already understood, like omega-3 fatty acid modulate inflammatory gene expression. Now comes the gene diet interaction, like for example childhood diet plus genomic composition, it leads to a lifelong metabolic program. Poor feeding plus genetic deposition, it is equal to amplified risk of degenerative diseases. Now comes the preventive strategies. So what is preventive strategies? Okay, now we can understand that preventive strategies are actions taken into preventive to prevent the negative outcomes such as illness or injury through the methods like healthy lifestyle choices, screening, and safety measures. And the preventive strategies can be categorized or into the primary, secondary, or tertiary. Like primary includes the preventing a disease before it starts. Secondary stage says like early detections and treatment. Tertiary says managing chronic condition, levels of prevention. For example, in getting vaccinated or eating a healthy diet, getting a regular checkups and wearing a seat belt is all comes into the your preventive strategies. And preventive strategies leads to the prevention of certain types of diseases. For example, you should always have a balanced diet or get a get a regular physical activities. You get enough sleep and limit the alcohol intake. So by this you can adopt a healthy lifestyle, and yes, you can prevent diseases also. And it also leads to the avoid the risk factors like quit smoking and avoid exposure to things that can cause harm. Get vaccinated is one of the best thing that can be done to protect against the infectious diseases. So in this particular slide we understand like life nutrition. So already have done what is early lifestyle nutrition. So talking about the early lifestyle nutrition, it refers to the crucial dietary habit and eating pattern established during the first 1000 days of life, through conceptions, through a child's second birthday, and to an early childhood. This period is crucial, or you can say it is critical, because nutrition during this time can program long-term health outcomes, growth and development, significantly influencing the risk of chronic diseases later in adulthood. Talking about the core principles and our importance of early nutrition is like the main idea behind early lifestyle nutrition, it is leading to the foundation for lifelong health is built in the earliest years. So see, whenever you make any house, okay, so the foundation should be you can say mazboot wali foundation. So that is the case with the health also, because at the early stages of birth, in the early stages of birth, if we get enough of the nutrients, okay, good amount of nutrient, so we can we have built a good foundation for our body. Okay, so early nutrition is very important because it has a certain types of like it leads to prevention or to different types of diseases as well. Promote, and how you can do this? By promoting the excessive exclusive breastfeed for the first 6 months. Always include a balanced diet in our diet, like balanced way in the like whole foods, fruits and vegetable. You should always limit the processed foods, sugar and excess salt. Micronutrient support is very important. Ensure the adequate intake of iron, vitamin D, calcium, omega-3 fatty acid. Fortification and supplementations were the deficiencies that are in common. So it is very important to have a good diet. How you can do it? By getting a breastfeed, like exclusive breastfeed for about 6 months of life, while after that you can continue breastfeeding alongside with certain types of complementary food for 2 years and beyond. And it is the ideal time to get nutrition and can can set bars in your body to fight against infection. Now introduction of solids, like for about 6 months of ages, infants should be introduced to variety of safe nutrient dense and diverse complementary foods. Now talking about the balanced diet, so the balanced diet should focus on the whole nutrient dense foods, includes fruits, vegetables, grains, lean proteins and healthy fats. But yes, you should always avoid or limit certain harmful intakes like added sugars and food, like the processed food mainly. Then the trans fats should be avoided. Okay, why added sugars and salt? Because foods and drinks with added sugars and salt, it sometimes get a very adverse effect for on your childhood thing. So try to avoid the excesses for sugars and salt. Now the genomic awareness. Genetic screening for predispositions like obesity or cardiovascular risk. Personalized nutrition plan based on the nutrigenomic profile. Now public health and lifestyle intervention. So school based nutrition program, family education on healthy practices, encourage a physical activity from childhood. So yes, you by all adopting all these things, the nutrition program or the good healthy feeding practices or physical activity can helps to create a good lifestyle, a healthy lifestyle. And yes, by adopting all these things, by cutting the sugar, by cutting the salt, by including a good nutrients like fruits, vegetables or and whole grains, oats and everything in your diet can helps to build a good nutrient inside the body. And yes, it will create a healthy lifestyle. And if you have a healthy body, so you can prevent your body from different types of harmful diseases. So it is important to have a good immunity, and from where this good immunity comes from the healthy eating lifestyle. Now talking about the conclusion parts. So, see, the childhood feeding patterns and the genomic composition are intertwined and determinants of adult health. Poor early nutrition plus genetic predisposition, it leads to a higher chronic degenerative diseases. Because if your body is not getting enough of nutrient or a nutrient in a right manner, so yes, it will create a certain types of chronic degenerative diseases. For example, obesity, for example, your heart related diseases, for example, cancer. As already told you that जो birth होती है means the early stages are very crucial, because at that time your the organ of a baby, or you can say the organ of a human beings, are developing. So when a child is born, why it is recommended to give a proper nutrient? Because at that particular time we know that the brain is developing, your lungs are developing, each and every organ of your body is developing, whether it's an internal organ or an external organ. Your height, your body physique, all depends on the good amount of nutrient. If your body is getting an enough of good nutrients, so yes, your body can fight with different kinds of chronic diseases. And yes, it will act as a barrier for the infection. But yes, if you have a very poor nutrition at an early stages, so yes, immunity will be low, and there are higher risk of the chronic degenerative diseases. Now comes the epigenetic changes link diet and gene expression. They lead to shaping our lifelong outcomes. Okay, so we have already understood the what do you understand by epigenetic changes that are linked to diet. So yes, there's a this epigenetic changes that are linked to diet. It considers how dietary component can influence the gene expression by making the epigenetic modifications. And for example, we have seen like the DNA methylation or histone. Okay, now comes histone modification, sorry. Now talking about this epigenetic changes linked to diet, so we can understood this thing with an examples. For example, a diet rich food in a like broccoli, like garlic and a leafy greens provide a nutrients and the compounds that can have a beneficial effects. Okay, so yes, it is important to yeah, have a good amount of nutrient in our diet. Certain dietary components and lifestyle choices such as excessive alcohol composition consumption, it can lead to harmful epigenetic modification. So yes, if you are getting a good amount of diet, so yes, it can lead to a healthy changes. Whereas if you are consuming any alcohol or not a good type of food, so it will lead to an adverse effect. Investing in childhood nutrition and genomic awareness, it reduces the global risk burden. So this is very important. You can write it somewhere also, that investing in childhood nutrition and the genomic awareness, it will lead to sorry it will reduce to a global disease burden. So you can understand by this point that how much good nutrition is helpful for our body. Now that's bring to the end of the lecture. I hope you have understood the lecture. But again, if you face any queries or if you have any questions, so you can leave your queries and the questions in the comment section. And follow ITLS Academy on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Instagram. Subscribe ITLS Academy, and this is our website, that is www.itlsacademy.com. This is our helpline number, that is 7080833450. You can simply call on this number and get updated. Thank you for watching. Please do like, share, and subscribe. And at last, don't forget to press the bell icon to get more update on this particular lecture. Thank you.